Hello and welcome to the second episode of Frosty Talk, the show that connects you, the Path to Pro enthusiast, with players from sheer cold. Joining me today is Alex270401, off-tank for the team. So Alex, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So as for me, I'm Alex2704 from Sheer Cold. I'm the off-tank, and we're competing in Contenders.
Okay, so I have a question right off the bat. Can you explain to me the numbers in your name?
Alright, so that's pretty simple. My numbers in the name are for my birthday on the 27th April.
Okay, so as simple as that. Right, well, I thought it was going to be some deep, meaningful thing. Well, thank you for that. So, what first drew you to Overwatch?
In the past, I used to play a lot of FPS games such as CS, but I also like games like League of Legends, where it's like MOBA and more like ability and cooldown based. And Overwatch was kind of like the in-between, combining both of those parts, which I really like.
And did you do any competing in League or CS before Overwatch?
I did play both games quite a bit and reached, like, especially a high rank in CS, getting global elite, but I didn't necessarily play in teams.
Okay. So you obviously have made a name for yourself playing off-tank. Were you always a tank player, and what drew you to being a tank player?
At the very beginning of Overwatch, I kind of played everything. Like, season 1, I played mostly DPS, I think. In season 2, like, I played Ana. Overall, like, I focused mostly on like characters that are very like mechanical based. So I would be like a lot of DPS or Ana, and then even off tanks. I think what made me go tank the most is that I like a lot playing around my team and like kind of guiding them. I think that's why.
Okay, so we're going to move on and ask a few questions about life in Sheer Cold. You've now been with Sheer Cold for more than a year, and that's really rare in Contenders for someone to be with a team that long. What's kept you with Sheer Cold all this time?
I mean, the overall like team atmosphere, the way we like approach problems, the way we work together as a team just was amazing, and I've never like experienced anything better like here. So that's what kept me here.
You've been playing alongside Shade for a long time as well, and I feel like tank and off tank in particular is two roles where you've got to have that synergy. How has it been having a dedicated partner like Shade for all this time?
It helps in the way that like many things that like you would still be like calling out specifically, you don't need to call anymore at some point. For example, when like Shade is like pulling a target, like when we're playing Orisa Sigma, I know that like I want to use my rock and throw it at it. Or like when we're rotating as Orisa Sigma, I know that I'm like, he knows that I'm shielding him in first, and then he uses his shield second. Like all these kind of small things, like we just know them both, so we don't need to like clutter comps with them.
So last month you finished third in Contenders. You finished fourth in EBC recently. How are you feeling about your performance and Sheer Cold's performance now that the competitive year is nearly over?
I mean, considering that we're all like, or at least at the very beginning of Contenders, like used to be like pretty new, and we're like still sort of inexperienced compared to many of the other players, I think we did very well, and yeah, we're still improving.
Okay, good to see. So obviously there's still the gauntlet left to go with the potential for international opponents. How are you guys feeling about the gauntlet?
Of course, we're excited because it's a great opportunity. We're definitely looking forward to doing our very best to do better than we did before, at least. And that's the goal, as always.
And I wanted to touch briefly on the meta at the minute. We're starting to see a lot more of Double Shield, the Orisa Sigma coming through. And from having watched you guys play, it feels like a thing that suits you in particular, Shade also, and Sheer Cold in general. What do you think about the meta at the minute and how it suits you and Sheer Cold?
I mean, bunker metas in the past used to be something that we're extremely good at, and I think we still are. I think it has a lot to do with just our hero pool. That like I think on my strongest character, and Shade, I feel like also can play Orisa just really well. And it does also help that like our DPS are extremely flexible, allowing us to swap around all sorts of DPS that we ever need.
Okay, cool, thanks. So the next thing we're going to do is just the quickfire questions from Twitter. So, don't worry about giving deep, in-depth answers. Just, whatever comes to mind. It's kind of a bit of fun, this bit.
Okay.
So Chaos asks, what's your favorite thing about off-tank?
Favorite thing about off-tank? There's mechanics involved, there's aim involved, but I don't need to click the head.
Okay, cool. From Exo, are you someone that brings up a lot of ideas and plans mid-game? Or are you more of a listener and a talker about how to play certain comps before matches?
I definitely used to be more of a listener. Nowadays, I'm not like the main planner, but I do fill in with plans when I think of like when I feel like we need something.
From default, do you have any tips to become a better player?
There isn't all that much to say. I think like if you want to become a better player, just look at your play. Like you can look at Overwatch League replays. You can see what better players do. Try to analyze how they play, what they play, the way they play, why they use certain cooldowns at certain times, and then try to use that yourself.
Okay, and finally, if you could be on any Overwatch League team, what team would that be and why?
Obviously, being on the Shock, which is the best team, would be great. But besides that, there's also another team, and that would be Washington Justice. And what I find like interesting about them is that they seem to play a lot around their player strength instead of focusing on the main meta, and I really like that.
Okay, and one final thing, Alex, where can people find you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at Alex2704.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you everybody else for tuning in. We'll be back soon with even more player content. In the meantime, keep up to date with all the latest from Sheer Code on Twitter at SheerCodeGG, and in the meantime, stay frosty.